All right, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit continued in San Francisco yesterday, and President Biden spoke at a dinner last night where he indicated that Americans who are unhappy with the current state of the economy must be experiencing some sort of disconnect.
Acknowledge there's a disconnect between the numbers and how people feel about their place in the world right now. We can deal with the second part as well. We still have work to do, but our model for growing is delivering real results for all Americans.
That's amazing. All that despite an economy that has 61% of Americans literally living from paycheck to paycheck, and 78% of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of the economy. But the Biden administration continues to push upon us that Bidenomics is working. Who knows? Maybe they even believe that themselves. But at any rate, joining me now to discuss this is Joel Griffith. He's the Financial Regulations Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joel, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Thank you, Jody.
Well, listen, President Biden just keeps giving all these speeches trying to assure Americans that Bidenomics is working. But why? That's a silly question, perhaps, but why don't people believe him?
Well, people don't believe Bidenomics is working because they feel that it's not working. And it bears truth in the data. The typical family has lost more than $4,000 in real inflation-adjusted income since President Biden took office. And that $4,000 pay cut is not even taking into account the rising homeownership costs. If you're looking to get a mortgage right now on a standard middle-class home, that mortgage payment is costing you about $1,000 per month more than it would have cost you just a year and a half ago. And this is a big reason why, as you've seen real income decline, we've also seen credit card balances hit an all-time record, $1 trillion. That's about a $3,000 a family increase over the past year and a half, even as savings rates have plunged near all-time lows. Bidenomics has been a disaster for American families.
It's a disaster for American families, and yet they keep pushing upon us that somehow this is working. It honestly makes you wonder, what is their definition of working? Are they trying to make it hard on families or what? I'm sure you saw Fox News put out a poll yesterday where 78% of Americans rate the economy negatively, and perhaps even more telling, 67% believe that the worst of it all is not over yet. Do you agree with that?
Well, yes, these are the worst economic conditions since the 1970s. Many of your listeners weren't even working in the 1970s. And that was a time when we also had declining real income and we also had sky-high inflation. So arguably, it's even worse now than it was then because it's never been less affordable to buy a home. If you look to buy a home, it costs you about half of your income just to make the mortgage payments and the property taxes. It has never been this bad in terms of homeownership. And you mentioned work in passing. Well, every month the Biden administration loves to tout these jobs growth numbers. But what they fail to tell us is actually that over the last 6 months, we've actually seen a decline in full-time jobs. The only reason why we have seen the top line jobs growth numbers positive is because we've seen a surge in part-time jobs, meaning we have a lot more people today working double jobs just to pay the bills.
Well, you're spot on that. There's no question. You know, and it just really grates me when he comes on and talks down to the American citizens saying, you've got to be disconnected if you don't think this thing is working. And this is coming from a president, remind everyone, that allegedly, I mean, he's under investigation for allegedly receiving millions and millions of dollars from laundering or bribery or whatever the case may be from foreign countries. Yeah, there is a disconnect, but we better not go there. But yesterday, let me move on. Yesterday, President Biden signed the continuing resolution, the CR, that was initiated in the House. And of course, that delays big spending fights until after Thanksgiving and, in fact, into 2024. What would you like to see happen with all of this?
Well, for most businesses, we have a budget that is determined by the end of the business's fiscal year. It is middle of November right now. Most people don't realize this, but our federal government fiscal year actually ended on September 30th. And guess what? Congress failed to pass a budget and the president failed to sign one. So we're now 2 months overdue from having a budget. Now, what we're doing right now with this continuing resolution, basically what that does is it continues to maintain government spending at the levels from last year. Now, that's better than what Congress has done in years past, which is right before Thanksgiving holidays, passing about a 1,500-page federal budget in the middle of the night without people having any chance to actually review it. But what Congress should be doing is actually dividing up the federal budget into the 12 separate appropriations bills and allow Congress to have an actual debate. You know, spending is out of control. It's been out of control a long time. The interest we're paying right now on the federal debt is $10,000 per family per year. The amount of money that we've borrowed over the prior year is $25,000 per family of four. We cannot keep this up. A big part of the reason why families today are suffering from this inflation, which has obviously been such an impact on families. A big part of that is because for the last 3 years, we have spent wildly beyond our means, and we relied on our central bank to print the dollars to buy that debt. We have to change this trajectory now, and I'm hopeful Congress will actually attempt to do so once they come back from Thanksgiving and Christmas break.
Yeah, and I think they will. Listen, I've been there myself. Exactly what you described is right before Christmas in the dark of night, all these enormous, horrible bills are passed. Hopefully, this will avoid that, and a new day will be coming to pass those appropriation bills. Joel Griffith from the Heritage Foundation, thank you so much for joining us on Washington Watch. Happy Thanksgiving to you, sir.
You as well. Thank you, Jody.